For 3 generations, one family outside Grundy Center in Grundy County, Iowa, bought John Deere and only John Deere. This fall, the third of them drove past 2 of those green dealership signs and wrote a check to a German company his grandfather could not have found on a map. Stranger still, leaving cost him more than staying would have. To see why a man breaks a 60-year habit? Start with the afternoon the tractor died. It died at 4 o'clock on the 8th of October, with 200 acres of soybeans still standing and rain forecast for the weekend. He climbed down onto the black dirt of his own ground and stood there listening to nothing. He pulled out his phone and called the dealership his family had trusted for 60 years. He already knew what the voice on the other end would say, because the dealership he was calling was no longer in his town. The nearest technician who could clear the fault was 90 miles away. The loaner would not arrive for 3 days, and the invoice, when it finally came, read $8,100. He did not curse. He set the phone on the fender, looked toward the shed where 3 generations of green paint had lived, and started doing math he had never let himself do before. The check came 6 weeks later, and it did not go to John Deere. To understand why that check cost so much more than money, go back to 1949, to a different man on nearly the same dirt. His grandfather bought the family's first John Deere that year. It was a Model A, 2 cylinders, a machine so simple a careful man could rebuild most of it in his own shop with a wrench and a manual. It cost a little under $1,500, which was most of a year's profit in that time. The promise attached to that machine was never written down, but every farmer in the county understood it. You buy the green. The green does not quit. And when it does quit, the man at the dealership in town knows your name, knows your father's name, and is out to your field before the coffee is cold. That grandfather taught the farmer's father. The father taught the farmer. 3 generations learned the same lesson in the same seat. The paint in the shed was not a brand preference. It was the family. But the company that made that promise and the company that sent the $8,000 invoice were, by the autumn the tractor died, no longer the same company. They only shared a name. Was the invoice the first crack? It was not. The first crack came quietly, years earlier, when the dealership in town got a letter. It had been bought. Not closed, bought. Folded into a regional group that ran 11 locations across 3 counties. The sign still said the same thing. The man behind the counter did not. So the farmer started driving farther for parts. Then the fault codes started. Modern tractors run on software, and when a sensor disagrees with the computer, the machine can drop into a restricted state the industry calls limp mode. In plain terms, the tractor decides on its own that it will not run at full power until an authorized technician plugs in an approved tool and gives it permission, even when the farmer has already found the loose wire and fixed it with his own hands. You do not need to understand the software to understand the point. The tractor he owned would no longer fully obey him. So a job that once took an afternoon in his shop now took a phone call, a wait, and a service truck billed by the mile. Did the farmer complain? For a while. He called, he pushed, he pointed out that he had rebuilt engines before this computer was born. So did every neighbor, and every neighbor got the same answer. The tool stays with the dealer. The invoice in October did not break him. It only proved what the letter had started. That was the crack he could finally see. If this were one stubborn man in one county, it would be a sad story and nothing more. So why was the same scene playing out in every county in the state, that same season, on the same brand, at the same time? Subscribe, because this channel works through one machine class, one corporate decision, one customer at a time. The list is long. The answer begins in a room the farmer never saw because the decision that emptied his dealership was never made anywhere near his county. So what could possibly be worth more to John Deere than 60 years of a family's trust? a number it had promised to Wall Street. Over the last several years, the company set a public goal to earn 1/10 of all its revenue. By the year 2030, from recurring sources. Not from selling tractors, from selling what happens after the tractor. Subscriptions, connected data, software, and the steady, predictable margin of parts and service. Recurring revenue is money a company collects again and again from a customer it already sold to, the way a phone stops being a purchase and becomes a monthly bill. The market pays far more for a dollar that arrives every year than for a dollar that arrives once. So look at the farmer's dealership the way the finance team in Moline, Illinois had to look at it. A local dealer who fixes a tractor in an afternoon for the price of a part is a cost. A consolidated network that controls the tools, the software, and the schedule is an asset that prints that number every quarter. Nobody in that building was trying to strand a farmer in a soybean field. Somebody was trying to protect a number on a chart they had promised the market they would hit. The people running the dealerships were not paid to keep the coffee warm. They were paid on parts margin. So the local relationship, the whole reason the family bought green, quietly became the thing the new model had to turn into cash. The promise was not broken. It was monetized. So 6 weeks after the tractor died, the farmer drove past 2 John Deere signs to reach a dealership he had never once pulled into. The name on the building was Fendt. What did that unfamiliar name offer him? Something almost insultingly simple. Fendt is a German brand, more than 90 years old, built in a town called Marktoberdorf, and sold in North America since 1998. What it offered was a machine backed by a warranty that ran 3 years or 3,000 hours with no deductible and scheduled maintenance included, and a dealer network that AGCO, Fendt's parent company, had been building across the Corn Belt for exactly this moment. He signed for a Fendt tractor that cost more than the John Deere he was replacing. That night he called his father, the second of the 3 generations, and told him what he had done. Nobody wrote down what the old man said, so what follows is reconstructed from the logic of the moment, the thing a father in that chair has always said. "You are telling me the green is leaving the shed." The farmer did not answer that on the phone. He walked out to the shed the next morning, stood in the empty bay where the old Model A used to sit before it was sold, and looked at it for a long while before he went to work. Remember that number, the 1/10 of revenue Deere promised to pull from after the sale. That number is why he was not alone. The pressure had already reached the courts and the government. In January of 2025, the Federal Trade Commission and the Attorneys General of 5 states, Arizona, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, sued John Deere, accusing it of using its control of repair tools to monopolize the servicing of its own machines. In April of 2026, the company agreed to pay $99 million to settle a separate case brought by farmers. In July of that same year, it settled with the government too, agreeing for the next 10 years to hand independent shops and owners the same repair tools it had once kept only for its dealers. Now here is where the story should follow the pattern you have already learned. A company squeezes its customers, the customers run for whoever is cheaper, and the market corrects. That is not quite what happened. Fendt was not the cheaper option. The farmer, and thousands like him, did not leave to save money. They paid more to get out. That is the detail that should frighten Deere more than any lawsuit. When people will pay a premium simply to stop being your customer, the problem was never your price. And why should any of this matter to you if you will never sit in a tractor in your life? Because the same arithmetic is running inside the company that made your phone, your car, and the tools in your garage. The moment a business decides the relationship after the sale is worth more than the sale, you stop being the customer and become the recurring number. The farmer just felt it first. So why was Fendt standing there, dealership open and warranty ready, at the exact moment the window opened? Not because its tractors are magic, because AGCO made a structural choice years earlier that Deere's own strategy would no longer let it make. Fendt sold itself as the premium brand and had to earn that word through uptime and service, because a premium brand that leaves you stranded is just an expensive one. So AGCO more than doubled its Fendt dealer network in North America in a single year, from around 90 locations to nearly 190, and kept building past 200 stores across dozens of states and provinces. It opened a 16,000 square foot customer center in Jackson, Minnesota, purely to make farmers feel chosen. Deere's model needed the relationship after the sale to become a revenue stream. Fendt's model needed that same relationship to become the reason you buy the next machine. They are two different engines for making money, and only one of them required treating loyalty as something to extract. When Deere's customers went looking for the exit, AGCO had spent years quietly building the door. So does this mean John Deere is finished? Not even close. And that is exactly why the story is worth watching. The green machines already sitting in the sheds will run for decades. And loyalty, like 3 generations of it, does not turn over in one bad October. Deere will report strong numbers for years. But the figure that matters is the new orders, not the old ones. Because the next purchase is where a company's future is actually decided. And in more sheds, the next purchase has already quietly stopped being green. Sit with that for a moment. A company can look healthiest in the very years it is losing the thing that made it. A brand does not die when its machines stop running. It dies the moment its most loyal customer decides that staying loyal costs more than walking away. That farmer near Grundy Center made his decision. But the largest defection in this industry is not happening on a family farm at all. It is happening inside the operations that run 1,000 machines at once, whose exit will not be quiet. That story is the next one on this channel. If you want to watch the next domino before it falls, subscribe.